Welcome to episode 3 of AI Flash. I'm your host Anna Justy, and here's your AI news in a flash. From TechCrunch. Hugging Face reaches $2 billion valuation to build a GitHub of machine learning. Hugging Face has closed a new round of funding. It's a $100 million Series C round with a big valuation. Following today's funding round, Hugging Face is now worth $2 billion. Hugging Face released the Transformers library on GitHub and instantly attracted a ton of attention. It currently has 62,000 stars and 14,000 forks on the platform. With Transformers, you can leverage popular NLP models such as BERT, GPT-2, T5 or Distilled BERT and use those models to manipulate text in one way or another. For instance, you can classify text, extract information, automatically answer questions, summarize text, generate text, etc. Due to the success of this library, Hugging Face quickly became the main repository for all things related to machine learning models, as mentioned on the Ringer podcast network. The future of AI is thrilling, terrifying, confusing, and fascinating. This might sound like a hot take, but it's not. In 50 years, when historians look back on the crazy 2020s, they might point to advances in artificial intelligence as the most important long-term development of our time. We are building machines that can mimic human language, human creativity, and human thought. What will that mean for the future of work, morality, and economics? Best-selling author Steven Johnson joins the podcast to talk about the most exciting and scary ideas in artificial intelligence and an article he wrote for the New York Times Magazine about the frontier of AI. GPT-3 is a kind of a subset of AI. It's a specific implementation of a category known as large language models, and it also belongs to the family of neural nets and the family of deep learning. It is basically a neural net that is modeled very vaguely on the structure of the human brain, but we should not take that kind of biological analogy too far. That is, it goes through a process that's called a training process, where it is shown a massive corpus of text, basically a kind of a curated version of the open World Wide Web, Wikipedia, a body of digitized books that are part of the public domain. And if you have a big enough corpus of text and a deep enough neural network, it turns out that computers over the last couple of years have gotten quite good at continuing human-authored text. It is using its understanding of millions and millions of emails already sent to predict the next word in the email that you are sending. As seen on The Verge, Google is beta testing its AI future. It's clear that the future of Google is tied to AI language models. At this year's I/O conference, the company announced a raft of updates that rely on this technology, from new multi-search features that let you pair image searches with text queries to improvements for Google Assistant and support for 24 new languages in Google Translate. Google itself has seriously mishandled internal criticism, firing employees who raised issues with bias in language models and damaging its reputation with the AI community. And researchers continue to find issues with AI language models, from failings with gender and racial biases to the fact that these models have a tendency to simply make things up. Now though, the company seems to be taking something of a step back, or rather a slower step forward. The AI Test Kitchen will let select users test Google's latest language model. AI Test Kitchen, an Android app that will give select users limited access to Google's latest and greatest AI language model, LaMDA2. The model itself is an update to the original LaMDA announced at last year's I/O and has the same basic functionality. You talk to it, and it talks back. The Test Kitchen wraps the system in a new, accessible interface, which encourages users to give feedback about its performance. Once you see LaMDA in action, it's hard not to imagine how technology like this will change Google in the future, particularly its biggest product, search. Although Google stresses that AI Test Kitchen is just a research tool, its functionality connects very obviously with the company's services. Keeping a conservation on topic is vital for Google Assistant. For example, while the listed mode in Test Kitchen is near identical to Google's Things to Know feature, which breaks down tasks and topics into bullet points in search. For links to all of the original articles, visit our website at techflash.news. Also, be sure to stay up to date by following Tech Flash News on Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube.